Let me just bring our viewers an up-to-date sense of where we were and where we are now. So let's just talk about the areas which have been an area of real concern. Let's bring up the map that we are talking about. So this is Ladakh. This is the line of actual control marked in red between India and China. Of course, India claims and continues obviously to claim all of Aksai Chin. The boundary that you see over here is what is our ultimate claim line. But the line of actual control which exists is the red line over here. And that is where Chinese soldiers, from approximately 1959 onwards, it started making claims. Then, they'd come in 1962. Then there was a partial withdrawal from some of those areas in 1962. And that is roughly where the two sides are divided. But even this line is not a formal line. It's based largely on, what you see here is largely based on Indian claims. And those Indian claims in all of these areas, Depsang, Galwan, Hot Springs, Pangong, Demchok, many other areas, are based on India being able to patrol certain areas. They're called patrolling points, and they represent the furthest edge of what India sees to be our claim line in each of these areas. After the clashes took place in Galwan, and this is Galwan over here, and we'll bring you images of Galwan hopefully in the next couple of minutes and in what happened over there. All of these areas saw the Chinese block Indian soldiers from getting to our patrol points, particularly over here in Depsang, where the Chinese came into our area, our claim lines, and prevented our soldiers from patrolling to areas where they patrolled in the past. That was also the situation elsewhere. Demchok is one area in the south near the Himachal Pradesh boundary, but in a couple of areas, namely in Galwan itself, where there were those clashes which resulted in the death of several Indian soldiers, also Chinese soldiers, in Hot Springs and in Pangong, there were disengagement zones which were created, which were in fact buffer zones. Now, what exactly are buffer zones? Well, the soldiers of both sides, as a result of agreements, they went back a certain number of kilometers, and the area in between, which is and remains disputed, was where soldiers of no side would actually enter, and any structures which had been built over there by either side were being removed. So this would deconflict the immediate situation, and we saw that happening over here in the Pangong Lake. Now, this particular area between something called Finger 4, which is a geographical feature, and Finger 8, which lies further over here, has largely been a zone where soldiers from either side have not been patrolling as a result of the buffer zone which was created. There was a buffer zone created in Hot Springs as well. Again, there was an effort at ensuring that sides went back. So, there was no conflict over there. So now, what I can show you, now that we've actually gone through all of this, are actual satellite images of the situation as it developed after the Galwan clashes and, just how bad it actually began. So let's start with the first set of satellite images, and what you see on your screen now is the north bank of the Pangong Lake, where at a certain stage in June 2020, the Chinese, in an area which India claimed, actually put a marking of the flag of China, and they wrote in Mandarin that this area belonged to them. And this was a time when the Chinese had come right in on the north bank. Let's keep moving to the next image of the same area. This is also the north bank of the Pangong Lake, and these were all structures which the Chinese had actually built up over here in the north bank. What I'm showing you are the images of the north bank of Pangong and the south bank. Now, again, there were places where the Chinese had their boats. They had brought them forward from their original positions. But then, as a result of the deconflicting process and the creation of buffer zones, a lot of these areas were vacated as well. So this is again from June 2020. Let's keep moving the images to the next set of images. So let's go and take a look at where it all actually started, the Galwan Valley, and where the clashes took place. The Chinese built multiple structures right on the edge of the, along the river, near where the river takes a bend. The line of actual control, according to Indian estimates, was further south. As you go across this bend, approximately 400 meters is where we would typically patrol in the past. The Chinese blocked us from doing that, and they started creating all of these areas, and areas which we said was ours. And the clashes took place in all of these areas over here, right? All of these areas going down over here. This is where soldiers from both sides lost their lives. So let's move to the next set of images that we have. This is an area, hot springs, it's not really spoken about, very, very important. A lot of these areas, remember, had seen actual conflict in 1962 as well. So there was disengagement which took place. It took place in September 2022. This was a structure in August 2021 which existed, a Chinese area, but then the Chinese also moved back. And so as you can see, they vacated this entire area and this building was moved back. Again, let's take a look at some of the other areas that we are talking about. Move to the next set of images if we can, so that we can get a clearer idea of, so again, this Gogra Hot Springs area. This was the relocated Chinese base. The base which I said had moved south, it moved south approximately 3 kilometers further south. Let's go to the next image, if we can. Right, so that's what this is where the Chinese base was removed. It was moved further south, and this was part of a buffer zone which was created in this particular area. Let's continue moving now to the next set of areas. What you see over here is Depsang, and this is the area which is a rail concern, because as I understand it, in a particular place called the Y Junction, Depsang, right in the north of Ladakh, is where Indian soldiers have been prevented from moving in this direction east to our old patrol routes by the presence of these Chinese soldiers. If these Chinese soldiers move away from here, then India can get to our patrol routes. There's only one image of Depsang which has emerged, and this shows this Chinese presence. Hopefully a big agreement will have been arrived at which affects and improves India's patrolling prospects in this area. So there you have it, a quick look at what the overall situation is